Welcome to Nathan's Mind Movies. Episode 6. Safety. When I was a child, the world seemed like a scary place. Part of this was due to Safety Week, an annual week of safety workshops in my elementary school. One year, my school waited too long to schedule for presenters. The safety experts from the police, fire department, and local paramedics were all booked. My school had to improvise, so they enlisted the help of less qualified faculty, resulting in questionable advice. Instead of a scheduled workshop on the Heimlich maneuver, the school counselor gave us a lecture on how to emotionally support a friend while they were choking. If we found ourselves being driven by a drunk driver, our PE teacher advised us to open the door, tuck, and roll. In the event of someone offering us drugs, a part-time security guard named Mark said the proper procedure was to scream, "Drugs!" and run to the nearest man in uniform. He ended with a 20-minute anecdote about how his cousin Richie got fired from his job at the dollar store because he was, quote, smoking that hippie stuff. Most of our second grade class stared at the clock, but I sat at attention and took notes. Scream drugs, I wrote. Run away. Cousin Richie. Hippie stuff. The last workshop of the week was on fire safety, and supposedly featured someone who actually had experience in the field. Her name was Henrietta, a retiree who volunteered in the payroll department of the local fire station. Hi guys, I'm Henrietta. Sorry I'm late. I had some car problems, and I think She shuffled in 10 minutes late, took out a dusty VHS tape, and played it. In the video, a family of cartoon bears were eating dinner. One of the bears suddenly catches on fire. Then the words "stop, drop, and roll" flash on the screen. The bear does it while his family watches with a disturbing smile. Then an elephant wearing a firefighter's hat shows up and sprays him with his trunk. It ended with everybody smiling and waving at the camera. The lights turned on and Henrietta began to play with her necklace nervously. Wow, what a cool video! So remember, kids, if you're on fire, you need to stop, drop, and roll. Okay? Questions? There were a number of things I found alarming about the video. The lack of concern from the bear's parents, for one, but mainly, why did the young bear catch on fire in the first place? He had simply taken a bite of his mashed potatoes and become engulfed in flames. Was this how the world worked? I raised my hand. Why did that bear catch on fire? She paused. Oh, well, you know, these things happen. She looked over at my teacher for help. Yeah, Miss Henrietta is right. These things happen, said my teacher. They both looked at me, nodding in support of spontaneous combustion. I raised my hand again. Yesterday we learned that we shouldn't talk to strangers, but that elephant didn't introduce himself or say anything really. So firefighters are okay? We can talk to them? Sure. Just make sure they're wearing a uniform. But he wasn't wearing a full uniform. It was just the hat. Interesting point. Do you kids want some candy? All the students cheered, and Henrietta gave me a look like, dude, drop it. She handed out the sweets, but I declined, recalling a previous workshop on accepting candy from strangers. Safety Week was taking its toll on me, and as I laid in bed that night, my 7-year-old mind was troubled by all of the ways that things could go wrong. What if someone tries to kidnap me? I heard that you're supposed to scream something, but what do you scream? Help, I'm going to be kidnapped by somebody? That's a little long-winded. Nobody uses the passive voice during an abduction anyway. Plus, what if the neighbors only hear, "I'm going to be somebody," and they ignore it, thinking, "Wow, confident kid, good for him." All the worrying got to be too much, and I couldn't sleep. My grandmother had an idea. She had a CD collection called Relaxation Through Bible Verses. It featured readings from different books of the Bible. She played it by my bed, hoping that I would be comforted by the words of the gospel. It was a good idea, but some parts of the Bible aren't exactly reassuring. Instead of the book of Psalms or Solomon that talk about love, this particular CD was Revelations, which is solely focused on the destruction of the world. CD 1, it said. The Day of Judgment and End Times, Part 1 of 37. Over the course of a sleepless night, I learned this about Armageddon. A trumpet will sound in the sky and God appears. But after that, things go downhill pretty quickly. The dead will rise from their graves and float in the sky. Satan and his army of demons will be unleashed on the earth and terrorize mankind in a reign of destruction. And there was no way to avoid it. No procedure. No catchy three-word phrase. You're eating your breakfast one minute and the next, it was hell on earth. The next day, Safety Week was ending in a school assembly in the gym. The experts from the week all sat in a line of chairs in the middle of the basketball court and took questions from the student body as we passed around a microphone. A boy from the 5th grade asked whether it was safer for him to light his farts with a match or a lighter. The panel chuckled before agreeing that both options were fine, provided they had their parents' permission. I tried to calm my nerves as I wrapped my tiny hands around the microphone. Hi everybody, Nathan here. Just had a quick question about Armageddon, also known as the End of Days. Does the stop, drop, and roll technique work for hellfire? Also, if a demon does light me on fire, am I supposed to call the police or fire department or my local priest? Because I don't have his number memorized. Or is there some kind of priest hotline I could call, like 1-800-CRUCIFIX? Also, another question, well, it's more of a comment really, is our school has fire drills, but I think I speak for everyone when I say we'd all appreciate an Armageddon drill. Before I could ask about how the rapture could affect the academic calendar, the microphone was lifted from my hand, and I watched it float above me into the sky. The last part of the Bible CD had an instrumental track for open prayer, and later that night, I laid in bed and listened to it. There was a lot to think about from the day: how the panel had avoided answering my question, how the teachers whispered to each other, glancing concerned looks in my direction, not to mention the end of the world. But I was too tired, and instead, I laid there and began to drift off to the music. It calmed my thoughts, and as my breathing slowed, a kind darkness took over, and I fell asleep. Safe, for a few hours at least, from the worries of tomorrow. Nathan's Mind Movies are written and narrated by me, Nathan Adeshina. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did and you want to listen to previous episodes, you can find the show on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, as well as YouTube. And if you would like to contact me directly, please don't be shy. Send me an email at nathansmindmovies@gmail.com. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll go back into my head and see you next time with a story to tell. Take care.